Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the Dog Days of August 2024 upcoming Wargames edition. This is the video, if you're not familiar with it, where we take a look at various tabletop wargames in various states of production from companies across the planet. We've got a lineup of over a dozen games and odds and ends to look at today, so I'm excited to get started. As always, before we start, I do want to mention that this episode is sponsored by Noble Knight Games, and we'll be giving away our $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games at the end of this episode. To learn how to enter that drawing, be sure to stick around until the end. Noble Knight Games, if you're not familiar with them, is a board game retailer that sells new and used war games, miniature supplies, board game supplies, role-playing supplies, all kinds of game-related stuff in Wisconsin. Of particular note, I'm excited to say that they are about 4 hours away from where I am sitting right now. And in the latter part of August, it's looking about 90% certain that I'm going to get a chance to go down and visit the mecca of board game retailers. So I'm pretty excited about that. If I do go down, I'm going to hopefully shoot some video and some pictures and stuff like that and share a little bit what it's like there. Because I've heard really cool things from people that visit the store, with just the gaming events that they have and how big this place is and stuff like that. So I'm excited to get down there and take a look. More details on that later. But again, I'm really glad to have them aboard as a sponsor, and be sure to stick around for the end to learn how you can enter into the drawing for the $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games. Before we jump in and start looking at new and upcoming games, a couple of announcements. First up, I know a lot of people look forward to this, so I wanted to mention it because the GMT Games annual sale is coming up in September of this year. Now, it's August as I'm making this, so that's about a month and perhaps some change away. If you're not familiar with the GMT game sale, unless it's changed, but usually the way it works is for every game that you've ordered through their P500 system, they allow you to buy one game, and I think it's like 50% off, and it includes, except for like super new releases, almost everything that they have in stock that they themselves make. So it's a pretty cool opportunity to pick up some of the GMT games you've been eyeing at on their website for a while. So I know a lot of people look forward to that sale, so I wanted to mention that because the month has been set. Second announcement as we start up, and this is a big one as well, SDHistCon, which runs some of the most amazing wargaming, tabletop wargaming, and historical gaming conferences on the planet, has announced that their tickets for their summit, this comes up in November, it's November 8th through 11th in San Diego. I had a chance to go last year. It was absolutely amazing. You can see a picture up there of the venue and all the people that are there playing games. I mean, it's just such an amazing time and such a great opportunity to meet some fantastic people and play a ton of games. It's coming up November 8th to 11th, and I wanted to mention it now because tickets are going on sale to the public right here. It's open to the public on August 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Tickets usually sell out very quickly, so if you're thinking on going, and I would highly recommend it, it is such an awesome time, and they do such great work with everything they touch. This is coming up, so something to look for, to mark your calendar so you can be sure to get in on that and get tickets if you can make it. There are also reasonable hotels nearby, great food nearby, and San Diego is just fabulous in November, so lots of reasons to be able to and to want to go to this convention in the fall. Let's jump in now to the heart of the episode, which is looking at upcoming games. And we're going to start out, as always, with our newly released category, Volume 4 Old School Tactical, the Italian Theater 1943 to 1945 from Flying Pig Games. This one is now shipping, as far as I understand it. This old tactical system, I have yet to try it. I've heard fantastic things about it for a tactical system that sits in that sweet spot between accessibility and complexity. Tactical systems tend to get pretty rules heavy. My understanding is that Old School Tactical tries to focus on gameplay, accessibility, and the smoothness of gameplay. It's just a beautiful system here. I mean, looking at these screenshots and stuff. And of course, this covers the Italian Theater 1943 to 1945. It comes with 3 sheets of units, weapons, vehicles, and condition counters, a 30 by 41 inch mounted map. Game hexes. Hexes are 1 inch here. Luck cards, 40 plus unit data cards, which I don't see an image of them here. But, and there's also an expansion for it here. Let's take a look at that for the Empire, which I don't think is solo. I think it adds, yes, you must own Old School Tactical Volume 4 to this. This adds British units, it looks like, to this. Yes, that would make sense for the Empire. Some more screenshots in here with things like that. What do you get here? For the Empire contains another map, 30 inches by 41 inches, that depicts urban ruins and Italian countryside for units to fight on, and then 2 sheets of counters, which adds Canadian, New Zealand units, including the M5 Ram, the Fox Armor, and some other things as well. So in full color playbook with 14 more scenarios involving these units. So between For the Empire and Old School Tactical Volume 4, some great new additions to the Old School Tactical system. If you're looking for a tactical system that combines accessibility and playability, this might be something that you want to check out. Second game in our newly released category, I am happy to say, if you recall from the last episode in July, one of the things that I said I wanted to try to do with upcoming Wargames was to find a wargaming company that I hadn't talked about before in each episode. So this, I think, is our 3rd or 4th episode in a row now where we've had a new company that I've never mentioned before. This is 3 Crowned Games, and their newly released game is Dance of War, which covers the first battle of El Alamein. Now, this is a small company. It's a group of friends that's made games for quite a while here. And if we look at it, they have a number of games before we look at that in their shop here. Dance of War, Polar Storm, Stargard Solstice, and Iskra, East Prussian Carnage, Tolling of the Bell, both of which are out of print. They also have a P150, so pre-order 150 system where you can order stuff without commitment, just saying that when it comes out, you probably will buy that. So if you like something in here, you can kind of designate and tag your name with it. And then when it gets ready for production, they will let you know. So it's a non-commitment type of system for pre-ordering games. But if we go back here to Dance of War, their newly released game here, and take a look at some of the pictures at it. This looks pretty good. It's got an A1 map, which I think I'm going to be off by a few inches here. I think it's like roughly 23 inches by 33 inches or something like that. 286 counters, a 16-page rulebook, and then some player aids. And if we blow these up here, make these pictures a little bit bigger, we got the map here. We've got the counters. Counters look pretty good. We'll take another look at those momentarily. But the graphics look good, nice and clean and stuff like that. The cover looks good. I mean, good artwork on the cover and everything like that. Units, pretty good. Nice big numbers on it. So if you have some older eyeballs that might be struggling with small print on counters, this looks like it's going to be pretty friendly for that. Nice big numbers for you to read. I like the colors and things like that. Looking here probably at the German ones. And again, this covers the first battle of El Alamein. Here we have some background information. It says complexity is a 6, I assume out of 10 because they get 5, must be in the middle. And then solitaire suitability they mention is an 8 and replayability as an 8. So looks like a fun company. Looks like a good production and stuff like that. I haven't played any of their stuff, so I'm not endorsing it in any way other than what I'm seeing here as we look at it. But I'm so happy to find that we found a new company that we can talk about in these upcoming Wargames episodes. If you've played some of their stuff, and you like it, drop a comment down below. I'd be curious to hear your experiences with it. Our next item really doesn't fit into anything. It's kind of newly announced and upcoming and all the same things at once and P500 and all that kind of stuff. But it is a GMT Games 2024 replacement counter sheet, which is a rather modest set considering how many games they published in 2024. We can see a little version of it here. The good thing about it is that it's not expensive. It's $3. If you're in the US, $8 if you're overseas, if you order it on P500. So this is kind of why I wanted to mention it now. And then they don't charge you shipping for it either, which makes it a pretty helpful thing to get. And if we take a closer look here at the counter sheet itself, Tanto Monta has a fair number of the ones, all the ones in the top here, but there are some from Panzer North Africa, Men of Iron, Norman Conquests, Next War Poland, Flying Colors, Under the Southern Cross, Downfall, a good set here from Banish All Their Fears, and then a couple of counters from France 40. So I have a few of those, so I've put it on P500, and it says ship that get it in your hands by the end of the year, which is always nice. So just in case, because it's so easy to miss, and then especially if you're in Europe, it's half price if you get it on P500. So it's definitely a better way to do it than waiting for the $16 charge later. Let's shift over now to our crowdfunding category. This game is currently on crowdfunding with about 17 days to go as I make it, and just $1,000 shy of reaching its goal. So it's looking very promising that it's going to make its goal, of course, with so much time left and so little to go. But this is Guadalcanal. It's volume 5 in the Valiant Defense series from Danverson Games. Now, this is the other 4 games. David Thompson has worked on all of them. This is the first game that he has not worked on. This is designed by Vince Cooper, but it mentions down in here that it is heavily based on Pavlov's House, that particular game in the Valiant's Defense series. And this one covers in particular the defense of Henderson Field from October 23rd to October 26th, 1942. The artwork here looks fantastic. I mean, I love the box cover. And if we look at just some of the graphics as we go through here, this is kind of a history of the campaign as it goes on. And then it kind of outlines gameplay. It does mention as well, there'll be a 2-player cooperative mode and then a 3-player cooperative mode as well. But at its heart, really, you're going to be fighting as the U.S. soldiers, U.S. forces trying to defend Henderson Airfield on October 22nd and October 23rd to October 26th. As we come down in here, we can see some information on gameplay. So it's got the same type of kind of area movement, if you would, and point-to-point movement that kind of reminds me a lot of Lanzerath Ridge too, but it's the only one in the series that I've played so far. And then it kind of outlines the phase of play with some great cards and things like that. So this should be a great addition to the series. And again, if you're interested in it, it's currently right now on its Kickstarter with about 17 days left to go. Sticking with our crowdfunding theme, our next game to take a look at is the second game by Form Square Games. They are busy. They just recently released their first game, which was Bonaparte's Eastern Empire, designed by Andy Rourke, who you can see here on the crowdfunding page, the GameFound page. Now, this one has already reached its goal. However, it's still got 22 days left, so it's just started out. This is Volume 2 in their Limits of Glory system. This is Meda 1806. Covering, and we can take a look at the map here, France's campaign in Italy and Sicily in the year 1806. Now, if we kind of scroll down here, there's a great look at the map somewhere. Here it is. We take a look at that. I can pop that up here. This game, and kind of the French forces are going to start in the top corner up there, and then they're sweeping down. North is actually that way. So they're kind of sweeping down through Naples, trying to take Gaeta and stuff, and then come across to take Sicily. The British, with their Russian allies and guerrillas involved and stuff like that, are trying to look for opportunities to hit the French where they're weak as they overexpand. This one captures the same type of system, same core mechanics that were used in Bonaparte's Eastern Empire. And some of the things I really like the combat system in that game, and then I really like their event-driven timeline. It's a great system and a very clever system for capturing historical events, but not tying you to a historical timeline. So it just works very elegantly, very simply. I think this is a company that's got a lot of innovative and creative ideas on the horizon. It's great to see them driving on now with their second game. And you can also order, if you really want to, you can order campaign number 3 and 4 in the series at Santa Mora and Capri, which is available as kind of package. This doesn't really have that much information about it, but it's kind of saying, okay, if you want to support us as we continue on for the next game as well. But wow, they're cranking them out here. I mean, once you get that core system going, and I think there's a lot of nuances that are going to be in play for this game as well. But very creative. It's really cool to see a small wargaming company come up and have success like this. And if you want to support their work, it's available right now on GameFound, Meda 1806, or you can double support for their next game in the campaign as well. Continuing on with our crowdfunding theme, this one just ended, but you can still late pledge it if you would like. Iwo Jima 1945 from Worthington Publishing. This one, a lot of people, when you see it, I think if you've been watching wargaming over the past couple of years, a game that you hear and see a lot was Tarawa, and using the same system. So this is a solitaire game, by the way, where you play the U.S. forces invading Iwo Jima. And if you look at these blocks and the map here, you'll recognize that same thematic influence that Tarawa has on this. There are some changes to gameplay here, and that there's mountains there, and a couple of mechanical changes to the game as well. But this looks like so. To back up, Tarawa is a game that I see posted on social media a lot, which tells me that it's a game that it's one of those tableable games. It's a game that people play. You don't buy it and it doesn't sit on your shelf. You can get it out and you can play it. A couple of reasons why I think is that Tarawa plays fast, as I would expect Iwo Jima to play fast as well. And then the rules aren't that complicated. So if we look at the rules here for Iwo Jima, They posted them here. I imagine too, just a caveat, these are probably prototype rules. But if you go through them, it's a relatively straightforward system. And the entire rule set here, including all the graphics and stuff like that, is only 11 pages. So probably 12 pages with the cover and things like that. So another reason why I think this is a game that gets played a ton. I've also heard it's brutally hard to win. I don't know if that'll be the same thing for Iwo Jima, but pretty much every time I see someone post something about Tarawa, I see them posting that, oh, I lost. So got a how to play, some reviews in here and some pre-looks and stuff like that too. And then we get some packages that are available. Here you can get the whole set there, kind of both copies, Tarawa and Iwo Jima, if you would like to pledge them both there. So Iwo Jima, the second game, kind of the follow-up to Tarawa in this solitaire system of U.S. naval invasions of Japanese islands in World War II. This one looks like another one that's going to be extraordinarily popular and still available on late pledges. It's well over its goal. Its goal was $2,000. It's just shy of $40,000 now. So a lot of fans out there for this system that I'm sure are looking forward to Iwo Jima. Last up in our crowdfunding category, Dog Boats from Compass Games, designed by Joe Carter. This one has 63 hours left to go as I'm making this. So it's just a little bit, you don't want to dally on this one here, although there is usually a pre-order discount still available from Compass Games after it goes through. What they use here is usually the kind of, they have a very short Kickstarter as the game is like a month or so away from shipping. And this is the same type of system here. This looks like it's going to ship in October is what it says. So sometime in the next couple of months, the game will ship. And they just call attention as a kind of a last Kickstarter here in case people want to jump on board at the discounted price, although it's usually on their website for a discounted price for a little while after this as well. So this is the third game by Joe Carter in a very similar system. The other two games are listed here as Devil Boats and Schnell Boats. I've heard a couple of different stories about Devil Boats, the first one. And I picked it up used last summer, but I have not had a chance to play it yet. So I kind of want to play that one before I go much further into the series. But the idea behind the series is really cool. You lead, in this one for Dog Boats, you lead British ships in the English Channel trying to sink Kriegsmarine forces in the North Sea from 1943 to 1944. The goal is to survive 12 months of this campaign, going out on various missions. It reminds me a lot of the submarine series, the Hunters and Raiders of the Deep and things like that, except you've got a squadron of 4 of your Royal Navy gunboats or torpedo boats going out on night missions to sink German merchant ships and other German vessels and trying to avoid the Luftwaffe and things like that. But a fair bit of detail, but not a ton of complexity here. If we look at the entire length of the rulebook, we start to get to graphics here, and we're on page 15. There's 16 pages in all. So not a complex or long rule set. Looks like it's got a lot of kind of interesting and cool and fun mechanics on here, as well as medals and veteran status, and your crew can improve and things like that. So it does remind me, again, a lot of those submarine games. And maybe if you like those, you would like this as well. I want to try Devil Boats before I shift in and try Dog Boats and things like that, because, well, you can't play them all for one thing too, but it does look like if you're a fan of this type of game, this might be something that you want to take a look at. Let's shift over now into our last call category. These are the games where it's kind of the last chance to get the discount price. Red Dust Rebellion is the first one we'll look at from GMT Games. This is a game I've talked about a number of times on upcoming Wargames, so I won't kind of belabor the point too much, but it is shipping in August, I believe, so it should arrive end of August and early September. We should start seeing copies of this in the wild here. So this is literally the last chance to get the discounted price. If you're not aware of the buzz behind this one, which has a very high 3,100 orders to date before this, which is high, I think, for a pre-order system like this. This is basically the coin system, the counterinsurgency system in space. It's up on Mars. You've got these 4 factions, if we look down here, which is Martian Provisional Government, the corporations, the Red Dust Movement, and then the Church of the Reclaimer. So it's going to take coin and bring sci-fi element to it. It has a great solo bot system, completely fleshed out solo bot system available for it as well. I am very excited about this one. I have this one on pre-order. I can't wait to get it to the table. And this is the last chance to get it at its P500 discount. Next up in our last call category is Tattered Flags #1, Into the Whirlpool, designed by Herman Lutman. This game is about a series of engagements around Rose's wheat field in the Battle of Gettysburg, and it kind of talks about being a hybrid between historical miniatures and board game design that simulates a tactical American civil combat in a playable format. And indeed, if we look at the map excellent here, you can see up, especially on this green part of the knot, there's a series of octagons. So it's really not hex. It's kind of, these are to help regulate movement and facing, I think. But the rough idea is that it's miniatures with counters. And if we look here, we can see elements here. We take a look at the counters here like this. I'm going to be kind of rectangular counters moving around. So the game has a very miniatures feel, and yet at the same time, it's kind of a hybrid between miniatures and board games. I'm a big fan of Herman Lutman's design, so I'm curious to see how this one looks. Looks like it's going to be a fun game, and it is currently at a discounted price until it starts shipping in the middle of August. So not too long to wait on this one. So if you're interested in Tattered Flags, this is the time to move on it. Let's shift now to upcoming games. The first one to take a look at here is Chicago 68, which is going to be a 1 to 4 player game designed by Yoni Goldstein and published by the Dietz Foundation. This one should be coming, I believe, to crowdfunding sometime in the next couple months or so. There isn't a ton of information yet up on the Dietz Foundation site about the game, but the Board Game Geek page has a good bit of information about it. The game essentially centers itself on the Democratic National Convention riots of 1968. You're either going to take the side of the establishment or the demonstrators. And if you'd like to learn more about gameplay, there is an interview on the channel with Yoni Goldstein, the designer, when we're at Circle DC conference. So you can learn more about the game there and about gameplay. But some of the pictures here do help to kind of show a little bit of what the game's going to look like and play like. You can play with coffee cups too. These, of course, are prototype art as we're looking at card-driven type of play and trying to balance, again, it happens all over the time span of the Democratic National Convention riots that happened in 1968. So this one looks like a fascinating kind of, again, not necessarily a straight war game type of thing, but historical conflict simulation, looking at a political riots that happened in the 1960s with a lot of different factors and influences going on. Looks like a fascinating historical game that I think a lot of people will like. So I'll have more information as this one moves forward, but I did want to mention it now because I do think it's getting closer to its crowdfunding or a movement forward in its release where people can start to pre-order it. Next up in our upcoming games category is Statecraft from Do It Games, and designed by David Vilches. Now, this is a game, I have a prototype for it, so I'm going to be creating a video about this game at some point in the near future as soon as I can get together a group of people to play this, because I do think it's a game that's it's a 2 to 4 players. I think at 4 players, it's probably going to be optimized, although I'd like to try it at 2 players if I can as well. This is a game set right at the end of the Cold War. It's a very interesting combination of kind of politics and economics and social agendas and international support and things like that. There are 4 different country cards, and what you're trying to do is basically take actions that are going to give you influence over these different countries, because these countries will then in turn give you bonuses in different types of categories like economics and diamonds and kinds of things like that. And these then will give you victory points that can kind of determine, you're trying to get people to like you because there's demonstrators as well. There's just a lot of really interesting political and economic and social components to the game. It sounds like it's definitely a game, and as I'm looking at it, as I've looked through the components now too, it's definitely a game that looks like it's going to be played best in a group of people. And there's going to be backstabbing and kind of moving behind people and hidden agendas and things. You can take the role basically of the leader of either the United States, the European Union, China, or Russia in this kind of post-Cold War reality. Just kind of showing some of the images here. There's like United Nations voting, so you can try to win influence there, and that can give you victory points. And all the time you're trying to decide where to spend these prescient kind of tokens that you've got, which represent the actions that you can take. And as you play, let me show it here. Yeah, you're kind of creating a tableau like it represents here of these different countries. And as the game goes along, you're trying to prevent some countries from gaining influence in there. You're like creating conflict in the countries to kind of get the country to break down so the other countries can't get their support. So it's a very kind of intriguing look. And I don't know yet how all the pieces are going to come together. So here again is that country tableau that you're playing on, which is one part of the game. You can see to the north of that too, you've got the victory point track and some of the voting agendas and some of the other organizations you're trying to gain influence in. So a lot of things going on. I've read through most of the rules right now, and it feels like a game that's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be a game you kind of got to play to learn. As I've read through it, I think I got it, but I got to kind of get it in action to see there. But this is a Statecraft from Do It Games. I've been a big fan of their games that have produced so far, and I think this one's going to be a very intriguing game. So I'm curious to take a look at this one, and it is coming at some point in the next month, 2 or 3 or so to crowdfunding. So a video coming up on the channel on this one soon. Another upcoming game, this one coming to crowdfunding at the end of August, is Lords of Heaven, about the first 2 Crusades. This looks like a really cool 2 to 4 player game. This one is out by Phalanx Games. I do have a prototype for it. I'm making a 3-video series about this one. The first look and overview should be out this week. Oh, also too, it's coming to crowdfunding, but before the crowdfunding starts, we are going to give away a copy of the game with the Kickstarter stretch goals and stuff like that too. So be sure to look for that overview and first look video, because that's where I'm going to tell people how they can enter the drawing. And then before the Kickstarter starts, we're going to announce the winner. Of course, you won't get the game until the Kickstarter finally ships, whenever that happens to be, but you will get designated to get that copy through this drawing contest. So we'll be running a drawing on this one. This one looks really cool. You're basically taking power and trying to conduct the Crusades or prevent the Crusades and gain control over Jerusalem through this game. Kind of card-based play with a lot of different interesting mechanics that are going on. And I haven't really gone through the rules too much yet. I'm going to kind of do that this week as I create the overview. But it is certainly a beautiful game in terms of how they've laid things out and a lot of the different elements of gameplay that are going on here. So I'm really excited to take a look at this one. It's kind of connecting as well to my Crusader Kings 3 vibe, which is a PC game that I really like, and a board game that seems to represent some of that action is really intriguing to me. Some beautiful cards and artwork too, even though these are the prototypes in here as well. So Lords of Heaven, very excited to see how this one plays and how this one looks. So again, coming to the channel soon, coming to Kickstarter at the end of August from Phalanx Games. And then lastly, another upcoming game, I mentioned this and showed this on the monthly update a little while ago too, is Iron Squad. Here, Iron Squad, there we go, from Princeps Games. This is a very unique and creative and big, as you can tell from the box, tactical combat system where you can play with 2 players. Basically, it solves the problem of kind of blind play, but you don't need a referee, with this kind of screen system and movement system and tactical system and things like that. I'm going to be making 3 videos on this game. The first one should be out in about a week or 2, showing how the mechanics of how the system works. And then later I'll be showing a video on how gameplay works, and then kind of doing a playthrough and kind of showing how that works as well. But it's a big game. It's a super creative and super innovative system. Very curious to give it a try and see how it works in terms of mechanics and flow and the physical aspects of moving the magnetic hexagons and kind of creating blind spaces and things like that too. So it looks like it's going to be a really fun game. I'm excited to give that one a look, and so there should be some more coming to that one. And that one, I don't know the specifics of when it's coming to Kickstarter, but at some point in the near future, there should be a crowdfunding initiative for this game for Iron Squad. So more on that coming up soon too. And lastly, in the newly announced category in the recent GMT monthly update, we have Italy 43, another apostrophe XX game from Mark Simonich. This one covering the action, of course, in Italy in 1943 as the U.S. Fifth Army advanced from Naples to the Gustav Line. Now, this one picks up right where Salerno 43 left off, and it uses this pretty much a similar rule set as Salerno 43, and it has here the same map and unit scale too. The one thing is to kind of look at this map too. This as well looks like it's going to be a very playable and accessible game, and the price point too is really aggressive for this, especially on the P500 price. It's already made its cut. It's over 700 orders right now. Very popular series. This looks like it's going to be another great addition to the series here. Medium solitaire rating, but I don't think there's anything in here really that would prevent you from playing solitaire whatsoever. So another good announcement for the Apostrophe XX series. It's great to see this one driving on and continuing and building up quite a collection now of Apostrophe XX games in this series. So another bit of good news for people who like this series. So there you have it, another dozen plus games coming up in the near future, late 2024, early 2025, or perhaps even a little bit beyond that. Be curious to hear which ones of these you're interested in playing, which ones intrigue you, which ones you might have on pre-order, and which ones you're kind of looking forward to. Drop a comment down below and let me know for sure. But now it's time for us to start our drawing for our $50 gift certificate to Noble Knight Games. I thought I would make this one relatively simple, and sometimes I've asked for kind of comments down below and asked for various things. This one, I'm curious about. I don't think we've asked this one before, but I would like to ask you a question. What is your desert island wargame? The game that you would take. So again, now consider that, right? This is not necessarily your favorite wargame, right? It could be, it might be, but they're asking really different things, because this is a situation where you show up home from work on like a Friday afternoon or something like that, and suddenly you found out you're going to be shipped off to a desert island for the rest of your life, and you can only take one game. Which game is it that you take? And actually, let's broaden it out. It doesn't have to be a war game. It could be any game that you want to take, although I assume most people will say war games down below. So down below in the comments, drop that. Let's put hashtag desert island. We'll do that. Put that. So that'll get you into the drawing for the $50 Noble Knight store gift certificate. And then put your desert island game. And if you want to talk about why you would bring it, I'd be curious. And kind of what I think is really this question is getting at, right, is what might not necessarily be your favorite game, but it's a game that you feel like is going to have the greatest depth and the longest play. What's a game that you can play for years and never get sick of it? And so that's really what that question is asking, I think. And I think that's the way probably people will interpret it. But let me know. So down in the comments, hashtag desert island, and then your desert island game that you take there. And if you want to add a couple of reasons why, or add as much as you want, that's fine too. Be curious to see what people put down below. So do that over the course of the next couple of weeks, probably making the drawing when we do the monthly update in about 3 weeks or so. So look for that to see if you have won, and good luck everybody in the drawing. And with that, we have covered everything that I was hoping to cover in this edition of Upcoming Wargames. We'll be back in about 2 or 3 weeks for another monthly update, and back in another month for another edition of Upcoming Wargames.